Back in the Class podcast, episode 43. Before we start off this week's episode, I'd like to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, the Bar Griffin Inn, the Pitside Pizza and Grill, the Members First Credit Union, VAR Electrical and Coco's Cakes. I'm Glenn Anderson.
I'm Ben.
And this week we're joined by
Nathan Kelly.
Thanks a lot for coming in.
Thanks for having me, boys. Like I said to you there off air beforehand, I really like what you're doing. Two young lads, local lads getting in and doing something really productive with yourselves and spreading the messages, getting people's stories out there and just using your platform for good, and I love to see that, and long may it last, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, legend.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
No worries.
How are you?
I'm good, yeah. I'm flat out training. I'm constantly looking to better myself, do you know what I mean? Every single day, trying to be better, 1% better than the last day I was, and have a fight coming up now the 1st of August, so I've just had my head down for this, and I've I've a lot to prove still. I've just coming off the back of 2 losses this year, so not been a great year for me, but these are the terms and conditions of fighting, and sometimes I was on an 11 fight win streak and now I'm on a 2 fight losing streak. When you're at the top of the sport, sometimes this happens, but it really just comes down to your attitude, your approach and how you bounce back. So that's what I'm doing now, just looking forward to the bounce back, and I'm fighting a Canadian guy. He actually fought the same night as me at my last fight, and he lost as well. So to have us 2 losers now fighting each other, trying to get the win back. So looking forward to it. Gonna be a good tough fight. He's very game, but I'm in a different mindset altogether now. You know, I have a lot to prove, and my last 2 losses don't reflect who I am as a fighter, and I'm coming back now with venom inside of me. You know.
Deadly. We took a few losses on the chin in our game over the past few months as well.
Yeah.
A word I'm really getting to like. I've only learnt the true definition of it a few weeks ago. It's persistence. It's the constant doing something, even though there's obstacles in the way or there's hardship. It's just persistent through it and constantly moving.
Yeah.
I think that's a great word.
It is indeed, and persistence, consistency. You know, motivation comes and goes, but once you keep at it, regardless of whether it goes well for you or goes wrong for you, the end goal has to always just be the end goal. Do you know? Whatever, I don't know what user goal out of this is, but the main thing is that, if you have episodes that get loads of views or episodes that don't get loads of views, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is your consistency, what you give into it, and what you give in normally reflects well, and it comes back in a nice way. Like I've only recently set up a podcast myself, and I'm getting shit views, do you know what I mean? I get very little views on it, but my whole perspective is it's a work in progress, you know. I'm starting off, I'm going to have a lot of low viewers at the start, and as I build, as you probably already know, as you build, you'll get your natural listeners, you'll get that consistent clientele who always want to listen, and then from there then that'll flourish and you'll grow off that, do you know what I mean? So like you said, just be persistent with it and just have fun while you're doing it. Fuck the views, everything else. No, it doesn't really matter.
Process.
Just enjoy the whole thing. Enjoy the ups, enjoy the downs. It's the same with fighting. I've had ups and downs in fighting. It doesn't really matter. The whole thing is the journey that it is. Whether it's if you're doing it for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, who matters? It doesn't. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The main thing is that you are doing something that you enjoy. You are having good experiences, bringing good guests in, hearing stories and sharing stories. And in reality, that's all that really matters in this, you know what I mean?
Someone very wise actually said to me, because we posted something there a while back and I thought it would do really well, and it didn't really do as well as I thought. And I was a bit down over it, and I was like, I thought we posted at this time, it was this person, would have done better, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And somebody said to me, don't think of every post as like the lottery ticket, think of every post as a catalogue, something you can look back at in the future and say, oh, look at this post and this post and this post. Or even if someone else is looking at you and say they're interested in sponsoring you or whatever, and they're looking through your catalogue saying, look at this one, this one, this one, this one. And it's just all, just keep posting no matter what.
And like I said, you'll get people who'll maybe catch on late. you'll probably have 100 episodes in, and someone will listen to one episode and go, actually, I really like what these lads are doing. They'll go back to the start and listen all the way through.
Yeah.
Thanks, hopefully, you don't God
Yeah.
God given like that. That's what you're looking to do as well as having your consistent weekly listeners. You're looking for them stragglers who come in maybe later on in the journey of yours and
Yeah.
like what you're doing. Then they look back and they go, oh yeah, they actually have good guests on, and I'm gonna listen to what these guests have to say and what stories they have to give. So like you that, don't focus on the present. The present can come and go. Like you can be hit and miss. You know what I mean? Even in my day today, like I can have great days even in training. For example, I can have great days in training. I'm like, yeah, I had a good day. You go into the next day thinking, yeah, I'm gonna have another good day, and you get smoked on the match.
Yeah.
And then you're like, fuck, like what's going? I'm shy. Do you know what I mean? But like the reality is, you're not. It's just you just had maybe an off day, and maybe you've trained really hard the day before, and because you had such a good day the day before, you train really hard, your energy might just dip that little bit more, and then the next day the guy who's a little bit fresher in the gym, he maybe have rested the night before,
He might
they're
get
coming
the edge
in,
on you.
they may just
Yeah.
get the edge on you, and that's
Yeah.
just how it happens. It's the same with you. Some like you might have a really good guest on, and they'll have what you think is the ticket to get loads of views and stuff like that, but just might not hit the algorithm at the right time, or it just might not get enough clicks at the right time.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you got that episode banked, do you know what I mean? And once the
Yeah.
episode is banked, like you said, you'll have a catalogue then. And once you have a catalogue, and like you said, you have these listeners who join late, people who come along on the way of the journey, they'll have all this to have on their own little personal thing, and they can watch all these when they come back, do you know what I mean? So be persistent, like you said, be persistent with it and just enjoy it. Do you know
Like
what I
what
mean?
you were saying, like you're always gaining listeners in a way. Like if you do say our episode 10, as you were saying, people go back and listen to it, it's still gonna be another number that listen to it. You get me?
100%.
Like, it could be on say 1,000 listens now, but then we could be on 2,000 for the 1,000 that weren't listening back then.
Exactly.
You know
And like that, it might take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. It might even take a year, and then you'll look back at the numbers of all them old episodes, and you'll probably have already forgotten about them episodes. Like they'll be so far in the past that you won't even be thinking about them because they're so far behind. But in reality, if you go back and look at the numbers, you go, oh, I'm after getting 3,000 listens on that episode that I completely forgot about. Well, then I must be doing something right. And then, like I said, it's the long game you're playing with this. Most podcasts fail after like episode 3 or 4, and people just quit. User on what? This is 49, is it?
43.
43.
Yeah.
User on 43. That's a serious amount of episodes. Like that's good going. And what do you do? Like one a week or one every 2 weeks?
One a
week,
week, yeah.
Like if as long as you're rocking out, stay with your plan, rock out one a week. Even if it's just used to doing it by yourselves, just stay consistent with your episodes, and people will come in time. Do you know?
There's no elevator to success. You'll have to take the stairs.
100%.
my home
Sometimes
school.
you have to crawl up the stairs. Sometimes you have to fucking drag yourself up the stairs. But the whole point is that you're going up the stairs. You know.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to bring us back to the start, Nine? Tell us what life was like for you growing up, what skill was like, and when you first got into the fighting game.
Yeah, so life for me as a kid was, long story short, my mum and my dad were together. My dad had a child from a previous relationship, so that would be me older sister, and they split. My dad got with my ma, they had me, then my ma ended up splitting with my dad when I was very young, so I went to live with my nanny for a few years, up until I was about 6, so I would have maybe left my dad maybe as I was going 3, and I lived with my nanny for 3-4 years then, up until I moved into my own house. But yeah, life was really good. Like, lived in my nanny's house, bit of a man gaff. It was me, my ma, my nanny, my granddad and my uncle, so there was a lot of people in the house, and my nanny's house was the house that everyone came to
went
on the
to,
weekends, you know, everyone would come for their Sunday dinner. So a lot of my memories were really positive of like all my cousins coming over on the weekend, and we're like a lot of travellers, my cousins. Yeah, there's that many of us. Do you know what I mean? Like I used to really enjoy it. Every Saturday or Sunday, you had people calling over, and they'd be busy for all the weekend, playing with your cousins, just really enjoying it. Where I used to live, I live in Finglas, and behind my nanny's house was like these fields. Almost basically, it's where the Ashtown is now. So when you cross the fields, it'd bring you to Ashtown, what it is now. But them fields, used to go wandering in the fields, playing in the fields, exploring, and I'll give you a funny story. I remember one day, me and my nanny used to go and walk in the fields, and I used to have a dog at the time, Kim. And my nanny was like, right, we'll go for a walk in the fields. And I was a very impatient kid, and I was like, come on, Nanny, you ready? My nanny was always doing something in the house, cleaning, whatever it was. She's like, yeah, right, I'm ready to go now. But she wasn't. And I just took off walking. And I don't know why, for whatever reason, I just walked and never looked back for like 20 minutes. 20 minutes into the fields, look around, no dog, no nanny. I was like, what? I was like, I'm lost. What am I going to do? I was wandering the fields, panicking for ages. And luckily then, to my surprise, I came across someone who lives in the same estate as me. Now at the time, I'll bring it back to, because it's actually a funny story. But at the time, I was so young, I didn't know who was in the estate. I lived on one end of the estate had like 7 roads, and I was on the very last road in the corner. So I was like 4 or 5 at the time. I didn't know who was who. I didn't know what was what. But I came across this fella and I was like, look, I'm after getting lost. I was meant to be going to walk with me nanny, but I'm after losing her and blah blah blah. And he goes, right, I'll bring you back. So he brought me back to the top of the estate. Now I knew the top of the estate, so I was able to run back down to my nanny's. And ran back down to my nanny's. There was obviously my nanny was on the phone to me, ma, he's had to go missing, blah blah blah. It's actually funny, like in the midst of me nanny's like frustration and worry, I got a clatter across the back of the hole. She's like, you little bastard, you give me a clatter, I'm going to ever run off again and blah blah blah. I was like, alright. But it's actually funny, and I still don't know if it was him, but I firmly believe that the fella who brought me back is actually my next door neighbour now. So his dad's house is next door to my house now, because I lived in say 39 and I moved up to 16 on the same road.
Yeah.
And I'm almost certain it was him, and he brought me back up, and I ran off. But I like I said, I'm still not too certain if it was him, but there's just this weird feeling inside me that makes me think it was him, because he used to always be down the fields and doing whatever. He has horses or whatever like that. But I just thought that was funny. But yeah, no, my childhood was fairly grand. Like, I was obviously split between my mum and my dad. Go over to see my dad in the week, every second weekend, and blah blah blah. But life was fairly alright. Like, obviously every family has their own troubles and battles. Like, my dad at the time had a bit of a drinking issue, and then he was with a girlfriend. She was a mad thing. So I saw a lot of as a young kid, and not even just my dad, but in my own house, a lot of them had like they can't hold that piss when they're drinking, and there's always arguments. Sometimes it ends in violence, and with my dad and his girlfriend, sometimes that would get violent. And so I was around a lot of like alcohol related like violence and arguing and like all of that type of stuff. So from a young kid, I was always quite tuned into what was going on around me, and I was always very very anxious, do you know what I mean? Because whenever I just had this correlation that whenever there was drink involved, something bad was going to happen.
Yeah.
So in the back of my mind as a kid, I was always like, nah, I'm staying away from drink and blah blah blah. So that was kind of like an eye opener for me. But like I said, every family has their own issues, and you know, we're all from the same kind of demographic, and we all know that, you know, drink, drugs, nothing good comes from it in the end. So that was always tuned into that. But I think that led into me being very like you know, nervous kid and stuff like that. So as much as I was tuned in, I was very hyper focused to whenever something was going to kick off. It's like I almost could sense when something was going to happen. Yeah. So that whenever that would be the case, I'd obviously get very stressed and worried and all that jazz. But for the most part, I was very tuned into all that. So yeah, I moved up to 16. My ma made me step down at the time they bought that house. Had a little sister, and life was sweet. Played a lot of football. Used to play for Wefta in Finglas. Used to love it. Started getting older then, and I obviously was going into did really well. I was actually a very good student in primary school. I went to St. Fergal's in Finglas. Was very well behaved. I was obviously, like I said, I was very anxious. I was afraid to get in trouble because I knew that my mum or my nanny would give me a good clatter if I was acting the bollocks. So I was very well behaved in school. Then went into first year, and like that as well. Just really afraid to mess around in school. But then as you started to get older, you started to like loosen up a little bit. Had a really good time in school. Very, very blessed with the friends that I have. Like, I have friends from junior infants right up to finishing school. Like, really, really good, decent friends. So I think I was really blessed in that sense that everyone who I hung around with was a good friend of mine for years. Now, don't get me wrong, when you're in school, you know, you kind of go through this like the social hierarchy of friends where, you know, you might have a disagreement with one friend and then he's trying to get your other friends to turn on you, and so you kind of fall into these kind of like little loops of being in with your friends, being out with your friends, and then you're worried about like, do they like me, do they not like me?
Yeah, trying to fit in.
Trying to fit in, but like realistically, all my friends got on great with me. There might be just one or two in the past that we tried to, you know, swing a narrative or whatever it is, and sometimes it's stupid, just falling out over girls, you know, like stupid things, like you're like 13, who the fuck cares, like, you know what I mean, they're fighting over girls, like, it's funny when you think of it, but no, really, really blessed with my friends, had really, really good times in school. Like I always say, and I know people probably disagree, but some of my best years of my life were in school, in secondary school, because all my friends, we were all on the same page, we all had the same sense of humour, we used to love winding each other up. Like if one of the lads didn't do the homework and I did the homework, I'd rat on him for not doing the homework just so we get in trouble, and then vice versa. If I didn't do the homework and he did, and he'd be trying to write down your homework just before the class starts, and he'd be like, Miss, he's writing down his homework. So I used to have a good laugh in school, lads throwing stink bombs in the class, and we used to be in the science room. We used to have these taps in the science room. We turn on the taps, pull back, turn them to the ceiling, spraying each other with the water. Just stupid behaviour, but really, really enjoyed school, I have to say. I got into MMA. I was playing football, and at the time I stopped playing football for a while, and I ended up going back down when I was like 12, and my ma gave me, like, my ma was like, if you want to go back and play, you have to make your own way to football. You have to, I'm not dropping you anymore, you're old enough, you can walk up the train and blah blah blah. And I was really motivated to go back up, because I went through this phase of like kind of being into myself in the house, where maybe I did fall out with some of my mates at the time, and I used to be very isolated. So I thought, like, alright, football is going to be my way to get back out and get me confidence again. So I went back up to play football. I was like, I'm going to give everything into this, you know what I mean? Because I started to develop this mindset of, I'm going to make everything happen for myself. I almost had this delusion kicking in of like, I'm going to be a professional footballer, or else I'm going to get back into the team, or whatever it was. Now I started back playing, and like, I'm not even trying to just like big myself up, but I was playing really, really well. I was training every day, smashing it in training. But like, my coach's son played in the same position as me, so he was obviously going to play his son over me, and then the frustration started to lead in that sense. So I was kind of getting fed up with it, and at the time I was kind of watching MMA and stuff. And how I got even introduced to understanding what MMA properly was I'm mad into the PlayStation, excuse me, and I was playing the UFC 2009 PlayStation game, and was mad into Brock Lesnar. I used to be a mad WWE fan as a kid, like proper invested. Used to think I was John Cena, you know what I mean? Used to think I was Randy Orton, you know what I mean? And got really invested in WWE as a kid, which then led me to UFC, because I seen Brock Lesnar was doing it, and I was like, oh, I'll start getting into this. So I was playing the UFC game, and you have your like creative fighter mode, like you be a pro in FIFA, you create your fight and you start from the ground up. But when you're doing the training in it kind of you can like pick what style you want, and you can like you practice the moves in the gym to add them to your arsenal of techniques in the game. But when I started to look at the techniques, I started to see like jiu-jitsu and wrestling and ground and pound and blah blah blah, and I was like, I'd love to try this. I was like, I just, it's so new, no one does it, and I was like, I want this to be my thing, because everyone plays football or gar or hurling or whatever it is. I was like, I want something that's me, something that I can do and no one else does. So I started looking around to the local clubs, and there was actually one, it's a 10-minute walk from my house. And how I kind of got in there was that my cousin's boyfriend trained there, and at the time I was still quite young, I was only 13. I was a mammy's boy. I only got braces at the time. My ma was like, no, you're not doing that fighting. I don't want your braces to get broken or get hurt or blah, blah, blah. And my cousin's boyfriend basically said to me, ma, look, this is really, really safe. They don't punch each other. They don't kill each other. They just mainly grapple. And it's very, very safe. So with a bit of convincing, my ma was like, right, I'll let him train. So joined the club. And I'll never forget it, boys. My first ever training session, I done a Muay Thai session, and you know, you're going in, you're punching the pads, the bag, you're kicking the bag, hitting elbows, doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I literally made that decision on that day, my first ever day. I was like, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. This is what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? So I made the commitment there and then. I said, this is for me. This is what I'm gonna do. This is gonna be a part of my identity, and I'm gonna be a professional MMA fighter. And that was the goal I set. And you know, fast forward, I'm still doing it. But at the time, my coach Barry. So at the time, obviously, at the time it was different. My mum and my stepdad were struggling. Like, they had their mortgage to pay and this, that, and the other. So there was a problem with them paying me gym membership. And now it probably was only like 70, 80 quid a month or whatever. But at the time, whatever outgoings they had, they were finding it hard to afford it. So a month goes by. They pay for me first month. Month goes by. I do my first month. Into the second month, man, I need to pay the membership. Oh yeah, I'll pay it. But I was still going training. Like, I just kept going to the gym. And my coach would be like, look, you need to get your man to pay. I was like, oh, I will. So I got back onto my man. And she's like, all right, tell him I'll have it for him next week. Next week could come. But your man got the money. I was like, she said she'd give it to her the next week. So it was always this next week thing. But in the meantime, I just kept training. And I think my coach at the time saw that in me, is that like I kind of needed to be in the gym, like regardless of whether my man was paying or not. I was rocking up. I was half an hour early for training every day. I did. So at the start it was Tuesday and a Thursday. Tuesday was Muay Thai, Thursday was MMA, and then used to do a strength and conditioning session on a Saturday. And I was there every week on time. I remember even doing the strength and conditioning sessions. I was 5'0", 40 kilos wet. And I'd be trying to lift heavy weights and I'd be struggling, and the lads just saw something in me. They're like, this kid has something here. He has that little bit of drive in him. So they ended up adding another session on a Wednesday, which was jiu-jitsu. And once I started doing the jiu-jitsu, I just completely fell in love with the sport. Like, I really loved jiu-jitsu. The whole idea of submitting someone, all the cool techniques and blah blah blah, the arm bars, the sweeps, how I can be smaller and beat a guy who's bigger than me, you know. Got really infatuated with it. But like, that man still couldn't afford to pay and blah blah blah. And my coach at the time took me under his wing. He just says, look, I know that you want to be here. I know that your man there are probably struggling to afford this. So why don't you work for me in the gym? You can clean the mats, clean the toilets, clean up around the place, and in relation to that, then you can train for free. So I was like, oh, 100%. So I was 13 years old, working for me coach, got really invested in it. Then I started to help out coaching the kids and all that type of stuff. So that went on for like maybe 6 months or so, and then we ended up moving gym. And when we moved gym, we only moved literally around the corner. So we have Glasnevin and Just Estate, and around the corner is the Woodies and Glasnevin. So we moved just to there, and I was still training with the teenagers. But in the midst of changing the clubs, we lost a lot of teenage members. A lot of them didn't come over. So when I was like 13 at the time, I was rocking up the training and no one else was turning up. And I like that. I was basically getting private lessons off the coach. And the lad who was coaching me was a guy called Grant. He's actually from the same estate as me. So I was training. He was a blue belt at the time. I was basically getting one-to-one training with him every single week. And he was like, Barry, look, it's not fair. Like, he's rocking up. Like what are we going to do? So Barry goes, fuck it, we'll just throw him in with the adults, do you know what I mean? So at 13 years old, I was training with the adults, training with grown men and women. So that was the kind of start. And then once he told me I was moving to the adults class, I just...
How did you find that transition?
It was exciting because I had a lot to prove, do you know what I mean? And I wanted to do this so much. And I didn't train in the gi at the time, which is your kimono and your belt and stuff. I just trained no gi. So when I found out I was moving to the adults class and I could train in the gi, I was looking up all the videos how to tie your belt, and I'd be 1 in the morning, I'd be learning how to tie the belt, and I'd be just mad excited to train in the gi, because that was another side of jiu-jitsu that I was still yet to taste. And I took to it like a duck to water. I was obviously training with lads who I was so light at the time. You'd have to train with lads who are maybe 60, 70 kilos, 30 kilos on me. Got my ass handed to me for like 2 years straight, up until I got like to like 15, 16. And then I started to get stronger, started to get better at jiu-jitsu, like to the point where I was beating the adults. And then they were looking at me as this small kid, and then suddenly 2 years go by, I'm training all the time whenever I was off school on summer holidays, I was training in the morning and in the evening. Doing any time there was a session, I was there. So I started to improve really, really quick, and that was my kind of like turning point where I was like, all these people used to smash me, now I'm smashing them,
Yeah.
and I saw the real progression, and then that just spurred me on even more. Then, do you know what I mean?
What did that do with your confidence?
It did wonders for me, because at the time I was still very socially awkward. I was like that. I was the only kid in the class. Like, do you know what I mean? Bar one of me mate Adam ended up joining, so me and him were, and maybe there was one or two other teenagers. So like I was still quite like isolated in the class, like where all I was doing was mixing with older people, you know. So I didn't really, aside obviously I was with me trying like had me friends as well, but outside of my friend group, I struggled socially. I was only really good with people who I knew and who was close to. I've kind of struggled with, like, if you went, let's say there was knowing your groups of teenagers and you see another group of teenagers who maybe the lads know them, but like I'd be there and I'd just be silent. I wouldn't know what to say. I was really really like, oh, what the fuck. And but as the years went on, I started to kind of grow in myself, and I started to get confidence in myself, because I knew that, like, I'm good at this. And I just always wanted as a kid like that, because my dad wasn't really around. My stepdad was a barman, so he worked all the time, so I didn't really have a male role model there just to give me a pat on the back and say you're doing good. So when my coach Barry took me under his wing, and he saw the potential in me and tried to like mold me into this type of kid, the fact that I was getting praise and all the other adults in the gym saw me how well I was doing and they'd be praising me, you start to grow into yourself then. And one thing I will say as well is the benefit, and you know yourself, lads, knowing from areas where we're from, you know, you're kind of just surrounded by your mates, your peers, and if your mates are up to no good, you can kind of fall into them habits.
Yeah.
So from a young age, I was training with guards, firemen, solicitors, brickies, plumbers, whatever they were, like doctors, the whole lot. And I had all these people training with me, telling me how good I was, and you know, I can make something of myself as long as I apply myself the right way outside of the sport. I could have so much potential. So when you see all these successful people, in my mind, successful people who aren't on the dole, who aren't like out selling drugs, doing this, drinking all the time, blah blah blah, they're well living people, have good jobs, and they're telling you you can become something yourself. It really was really great for me, because I started to realise that life isn't just about who you're friends with. You know, there's other people out there who can give you advice, more successful people who are giving you advice. If you only go off what you know, which is your friends and their mas and dads and, you know, people around the area, you can just fall into that mentality, that small-minded mentality.
Yeah.
So I was very grateful from that experience as a kid that I was able to understand there's more to life than just where I live, and there's more than just the people I'm around in my area. I had all these people come from far and wide to train, you know, so all these different social backgrounds and stuff like that. So it was really eye-opening for me that as a young age, like, you really can amount to anything if you put your mind to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think when
There's
you're like listening to everyone around you, they don't think big, so
There's a quote about that. It's don't listen to people who aren't where you want to be, because their advice will only get you to where they are, not where you want to go.
100%. And another one is, don't take criticism from anyone you wouldn't take advice from.
Yeah.
You know, and you have all these people, like, they'll shoot you down, like, oh, I want to be a world champion. Like, what the fuck are you on about? You'll never be a world champion. Like, you're from Finglas. Who from Finglas is a world champion?
Yeah.
And you hear this over and over again, and you
start to believe it.
Start to believe it. It's all because it becomes all, you know. It's almost like a normal thing for someone from where we're from to believe, because like, who's telling us that we can be a doctor or a scientist or an astronaut or whatever, a pilot, whatever it is, or a guard or whatever it is.
Yeah.
No one tells us these things, because you're almost just expected to, you know, work in a supermarket, which is funny because I ended up working in a supermarket anyway, but work in a supermarket, or, you know, become not that there's nothing wrong with doing a trade. I'd advise anyone, even a kid I'm coaching, if you don't want to go to college, do a trade. It's 3 or 4 years of your life. Then you can decide if you don't want to do it anymore. It's because you'll have your money, you'll have your qualification. Then it's up to you to decide what you want to do. If you want to fight, or you want to walk away and fight, or else you just want to just walk away, whatever it is. But I'd always advise people. But I just had this thing as like, nah, I'm gonna be something bigger. You know what I mean? But like, the reality is, like, I hit like 18, so I obviously hit 18, like, right, I want to start making money. So I start working in bars and doing bits here and there, and then I ended up, one of the lads I trained with, he was a manager in Aldi at the time, and I was looking for jobs, and he goes to me, do you want to work, we're taking on an Aldi, do you want to work? And I was like, fucking right I do, do you know what I mean? Aldi pay good money and all that jazz. So I put my CV in, had my interview, manager goes, yeah, I'll take you on, obviously because I had a friend in there, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
It's
and
not
I
what
never,
you know, it's who you know.
it is in your life, regardless wise. Sometimes luck comes your way and you just get opportunities, but the reality is it's all about who you know. And thankfully for me, I knew someone in there, and I'll never forget, it was like my third day on the job, and for whatever reason I had to take a picture of me wrote it on the whiteboard or whatever it was, on the pin board. And I remember this day, I was like, my dad was like, what time are you in tomorrow? I was like, 10 a.m. And I just was convinced I was in at 10 a.m, right? And this is like literally like my third day there. And like, I was already, I didn't hate fucking up anyway. And I didn't set an alarm or anything. And it was like just me instinct kicked in. I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, why do I feel like I'm meant to be in at 7? Looked at my phone again, checked the thing, said I was meant to be in at 7. Rang the shop straight away. I was like, look, I'm after getting it mixed up. My manager was like, just come in. He was proper pissed off. So I was on the push bike at the time, cycled in, got in like 20 minutes. I was like, I'm very, very sorry. I didn't know, I just got it mixed up and blah, blah, blah. But thankfully, and then I remember me mate came in then, and he was like on the later shift, and I heard them saying, oh, how's Night getting on? He's like, oh, I heard them talking to you, and next he's like, he's fucking late today and blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, balls, what am I going to do? But they ended up letting me away with it. And then, like, I remember I was doing like a review with my manager then, like a year later, you do like your annual review.
Yeah.
And like I was, do you still think that I like was lying when I said that I thought I was in at 10? He goes, yeah. I goes, honest to God, like I've nothing to prove now. I was like, I convinced myself I was in at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I woke up even without an alarm, and I panicked and I just cycled in, but we were just laughing about it. But I was very grateful as well that my manager at the time, I told him I was wanting to do an MMA, as that was my dream, you know, and he was mad into sport and he was completely supportive. So when I first joined Aldi, let's say I joined Aldi in the April, in the July then I was going to fight in the World Championships for Ireland in Las Vegas. And I told him, like, look, I'm not getting picked for the Irish team. And he's like, I'll sort your out. I'll make sure that you can do, because at the time it would suit me better to do the 6 a.m. shifts. So you start at 6, finish at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, sometimes 3 o'clock. I would come home, eat me dinner, go training then at 7 o'clock. And so he made sure that I could do that. So luckily for me, I landed on my feet there. So that was great. And I had a good support network there with me in the job. So that helped me kind of flourish in the sport as well, which is great. But yeah, going back to me fighting, I had obviously I started fighting MMA when I was 17, and I'll never forget, I went up, my first ever amateur fight was up in Belfast, and I was fighting a lad. I was 17, he was like 24, 25. Big beard on him and all, couldn't grow even a bit of armpit hair. I was like right, and he was an Orangeman. He was a Pride like loyalist, and proud loyalist. And I was like, right, I was looking. You know, when you're young, you're looking at that Facebook and you're trying to scope them out, and I was like, right, you know, getting into it. But I was just mad into the sport. I was training all the time. I went up, smashed him in a minute, took him down. I remember we went to touch gloves at the start, and he just kicked me in the leg, and then I just like a flip switch to me. I was like, oh, you're getting it now, you little bastard, you know what I mean? Took him down, smashed him on the ground, head and arm choked him and finished him. So that was the start of my career. Went on a good run, had a few wins, had a few losses, won my first ever amateur title. I fought a lad actually from Ballymun. His name was Ian Cleary, and he was like, I like that I was 18 at the time. He was like 30 odd, so he's like 12 years on me, loads of experience. And I fought at the time, which was a Andy Ryan show, it was called Battle Zone, and that was the biggest MMA show at the time in Ireland for amateurs and early pros. And I knew, like, if I beat this lad, I'm the best fighter in Ireland, you know what I mean? So went in, bet him, got the decision win, unanimous decision, won the title, and then from there I just felt like that was what set me off to get picked for the World Championships. And I won another title. I won my title, then I ended up losing my title to a guy called Aaron Maguire. I got smashed. This is the highest to lows, you know.
Yeah.
But they told me before the fight, look, you're gonna fight in the World Championships. So I was a little bit gutted obviously that I lost the belt, but I knew I had the World Championships to make up for it, and I won a silver medal for Ireland that year. Got to the final, lost to a very skilled opponent. You know, had 5 fights in 6 days. Lost in the final, unfortunately, but you know, had a great experience. Off the back of that, then won another amateur title, and then off the back of that fight, won another amateur title. So I won 3 amateur titles in me journey. Then I go into my pro career, and
sorry if I couldn't cross you, but
Yeah,
how
go
did you
ahead.
stay motivated in like your late teenagers, your early 20s, your, as they say, party years? Do you know what I mean? All
so
your friends are probably out clubbing,
at the
working,
time,
all of that.
yeah, at the time, my mates weren't really, well, maybe we were. So when I went 18, that's when we all started. Like, well, I actually started drinking around 16. You know, when you have your mates have gaff parties,
Yeah.
and we'd order like there was a local off license, and one of the lads looked older, so he used to
You'd
get
send him around, yeah.
We used to deliver to the house, so
Yeah.
it was even better. You didn't have to be carrying your drink around to the gaff. Do you know what I mean? So we'd order it to his house. One or two of the lads looked older, so we get our drink and we'd be, you know, drinking and having a laugh and all that jazz. But ultimately, I was just so infatuated with MMA. I was like, I'm gonna be. And when all the opportunities started, when I started winning fights, and I just had different priorities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But around when I was like 18, then we all started to go out and we'd be messing. Then drugs came onto the scene, and at the time, my mum, my stepdad. Sorry, I keep belching. My mum, my stepdad were going through a breakup, and I was finding it very hard. And it's like that whole thing of like the excuses, looking for an escape, and started to mess around with drugs. And you know, you go now. I was messing around with drugs, but I wasn't like, oh, like, what was me? I'm taking drugs and blah, blah. Like, it was like this whole new thing of like, and this is, I'll bring it back to it after, but it's this whole new thing of, oh, like, we're cool, we're doing drugs. And don't get me wrong, like, when we were doing it at the time, I had great nights, do you know what I mean? Like, and it's not like, oh, it was all, what was me and blah, blah. Like, we had great nights, and probably that was the downfall of it. We enjoyed it so much that then it'd lead into persistence, and we keep doing it. But in the back of my mind, I always had the fight in there to kind of keep me away from it, from getting too bad. So that was that. And then I started my pro career. I started off, I lost my first 2 fights, and for like after having such a good amateur career, I was 10-3 at amateur, 10 wins, 3 losses. 3 titles, world silver medal, had a really good career, then gone to pro career to lose your first 2 fights in a row off the bat.
What does that feel like? What were you thinking?
I went through a bad state of depression, honestly, because at the time you have all the, I want to go unbeaten, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be a champion.
There's such an emphasis on the zero now, isn't there?
100%.
You need to have no losses.
It's in the sport nowadays, it's very, very hard to come across someone without losses. Anyone who's coming without losses, they just have that extra bit to them, maybe that someone else doesn't have, or they're just getting the perfect hand-picked opponents for them. There's so many factors that can go into it, but at the time when you're a young, up-and-coming, inspired martial artist, you have these visions for yourself. I'm going to go 6-7 and now I'm going to join the UFC and blah, blah, blah. But to lose your first 2 fights, I remember after I lost my first fight, the guy who I was fighting came over from Sweden to fight me, and started off, bear in mind, leading into the fight, my weight cut, I was like 73 kilos at the time when I started to lose weight, and I got down to 61 kilos without even having to lose any sweat. Jesus. So I went,
Just been starving yourself.
I went and hear this, I was so I was like, right, I had this whole thing of weight, because the title fight that I lost before I went to the World Championships, I had a really bad weight cut, like with the sweating, so I was like 65, 66, and had to lose the 4 or 5 kilos of sweat. And so I had this whole thing of, oh, I don't want to go through that again. So I went carbless for like 8 weeks. So I trained without carbs for 8 weeks, on top of working, on top of training. I was like a zombie walking around.
Yeah,
it was
heavy.
Even my manager, I remember one of the times one of the managers in the job was like, Nathan, are you alright? And I was like, yeah, I'm grand. Be slow, dragging me heels every day. But had a really, really mental weight loss journey for that fight. Go into the fight, and he comes out in the first 10 seconds, hits me a spinning back elbow, rocks me. somehow I was managed to keep my head together. I got him up against the fence. I took him down twice. I took his back twice. He escaped, and then when we broke off, then after the second back take, he landed a 1-2-3, dropped me with the left hook. I got back up, and he started rushing me, and the referee stopped it. But so that was really like I never even got finished in my amateur career. You know what I mean? So to have your first pro fight, you get finished. It was heartbreaking for me. And in the meantime, like I said, I was already experimenting with drugs and stuff like that. And then you go into these slumps of depression, you're like, oh fuck it, I'm going out with the lads, and you're doing this, that, and you're getting up to no good. So that ended up spurred me into more of a depression then, because I was trying to look for validation and feel good through drug taking, that I ended up in a worse hole, you know. So then,
sorry for cutting across.
Yeah.
What would you describe as depression? If somebody asked you what does depression feel like, what would you say to them?
At the time for me, it was constant self-pity is one. You're constantly feeling sorry for yourself, like this whole thing, like oh, I'm not meant to, like nothing ever goes right for me, because then I obviously had wounds deep within me from my childhood that like I was never meant to make it. My family, my ma slept with my dad, my ma slept with my stepdad. I was around all this, that, and the other. I've never had confidence. And you start to talk to yourself all these times ahead. The state of mind I was in, I became a recluse, so I'd never leave the house. I would constantly talk negatively to myself, to the point where, like, I was believing everything I said about myself. And it's the same thing, like like we talked about with lads saying, if you hear something enough, you start to believe it. And I'd run myself down every single day, to the point where I'd be sitting in my room nearly crying to myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd be digging myself in such a mental hole that, I just felt like I could never get out of. And I felt like the only way I could get out of it was if I had a goal or a target. So I went through a stage after the first loss where I was feeling sorry for myself for ages, and I was eating shy food, smoking loads of weed, and what goes with weed is you're eating shit food, and you're constantly in a cycle of just in a bad rut. And I was like, fuck, I need to get my shit together. And my coach was like, right, we're gonna get you a fight. So I ended up getting a fight. I put on a lot of weight, you know what I mean? I remember one time my mum and my sister went on holidays, and in the week that they went, I'm not messing. I had the house to myself. I wasn't ashamed to eat, because I was in the gaff. Now I get in Ben and Jerry's, 8 packs of Squares bars, all gone in one sitting, crisps, this, that, and the other. And they went away for a week and came back, and I was like, I had my back turned to them in the kitchen, and they were like, oh hey, yeah. I turned around, and I was like out to there, and they just started breaking their shite, laughing at me like, you are so fat, like what the fuck. And I just felt the shame I felt with that. I was like, nah, fuck this, I need to get back to the gym. So I ended up getting back into the gym, and gradually got myself back to decent fitness. My coach was like, right, we're going to get you a fight. So I got a fight, had the fight, lost my second fight, and I was like, nah, I lost by split decision. And I fought in the Tree Arena as well, so my second ever fight, you're fighting in the Tree Arena. I got a taste of what it's like to be in the big leagues, and I was like, nah, something needs to change here. So I was on to my coach, and I was like, look, I think I might move up a weight division, because when I was fighting at amateur, I used to fight at 66 kilos. Then when I went to pro, I was fighting at 61. So I said, look, I want to get strong, I want to get fit, I don't want to have to worry about weight cuts, I just want to get big, get strong. So we implemented a different training structure, a different training program to get strong, get more stocky, get built up, be more explosive, be more powerful. Then I moved up to 66 kilos and ended up going on an 11 fight win streak. So the thing was for me was that I just needed a way to train, to be free in myself in the gym, because every single day it was like, I'm only training to make weight. I'm going on a run after training. I'm going on a run before training. I'll come home from work and going on a run. I need to get this weight off.
Always in the back of your head,
always in the back of my head about losing weight. It was never about I need my skills to be good. I need to have a good jab. I need to have a good head kick. It was all weight. Yeah. So that was very negative for me to lead into my fighting career.
Yeah.
So I moved up a weight class, and I just flourished there. Do you know what I mean? I won my first fight. Then I ended up taking a break from fighting, because I started to go through a rut in my MMA career where I was finding it hard to get fights. No one wanted to fight me. things weren't going my way, and then I was getting frustrated because of that. So then I wasn't training as much. Then my coach was like, if you're not training, I'm not getting you fights, and I was in this kind of bad cycle. So I ended up taking a break from fighting for the year and just focused on for a few years, because COVID came along around this time then. So took a break. COVID came along, and then with COVID, you know yourself, stuck in our houses all the time. I started to go off the rocker again, fucking working all the time. My mum and my dad weren't working, and they didn't even like each other, and we were all living in the same house. It was just toxic to live in, and it was just a really bad environment. So you come back to your escape. I never drink in my house. I'd be drinking in my house by myself, or like drinking there with me man, and I hated it because I had such a bad relationship with drink with my family that I never liked it. So COVID came, and all the worst sides of me started to come out. I was resentful of everyone, resentful of the world, hated everyone, drinking, doing drugs, and like that, just digging myself into another pit of despair. And it was actually within COVID that I took the break from fighting, and you know, none of the gyms could open, we couldn't train. So me and my coach at the time, we were like, fuck it, do you want to go to the gym and do a bit just to keep saying? And we were like, yeah, I'm there, like 100%. So me and him would just train with each other. Then we get one or two others, maybe be keeping a real low profile, and we start training. And it was in that time that I started to really reflect on me at my MMA career up till then. And I was like, because obviously I wasn't fighting, and I was like, my whole thing was like, this is my identity, you know, and I am made to do this. And if I'm not doing this, all the work I've put in this far has been for nothing. And I don't want it to be for nothing. And I don't want to be a guy who's sitting in a bar when he's 60 and telling all the young lads who are in the bar drinking, oh, he could have been an MMA champion and blah, blah, blah. If I just stayed away from the drinking, the drugs, and you need to do this and blah, blah, blah. I want to be the lad who's sitting in the bar when he's 60 going, this is what I did. And you can do it as well if you put your mind to it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was different perspective. I didn't want to be that guy, so I started to get that itch to get back fighting, and I got that urge to, like, I want to get back into this. And obviously there was like 2 stages of COVID. We had our 4th stage, and then it got lenient again, and then they slapped another lockdown on us. And it was when like the second lockdown kind of came that I was like, nah, fuck this, I need to get back fighting. So one day I was sitting in the house locked, you know, I'm drinking whiskey by myself, and I just gone through all these memories in my head and watching all fights and blah blah blah, and I was like, nah, I'm changing this right now. So and at the time as well, I was in such a bad mental state that like I was literally thinking about suicide, and I was like, because I felt like I had no meaning to my life, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And life without meaning is not a life worth living in my mind. So I was going through this route of like, nothing is, like, if I'm not doing nothing with myself, what's the point of me being here? I don't want to just be another guy who's just going Monday to Friday through work, floating through life with no drive, no energy. So I was actually mental. I'll never forget, I was sitting on my bed one night and I was high on drugs, and I got this mad like suicidal thought that I was like, I'm sick of feeling like this. If I'm gonna keep feeling like this, what's the point of living? And it was within that moment, literally, it was like a click of the fingers. I felt like someone just gave me a clatter across the face. I stood up off my bed, and I got such a fright that I even had that thought, and I was like, nah, fuck this, we need to change. This is scary. If I'm thinking like this now, I'm only like 22, 23. If I'm thinking like this now, what good is going to come from me in 5-6 years time if I don't change that? And there's a saying, if you're not changing, you're choosing. So if I don't change the way I'm living, I'm choosing to live this way, and I'm choosing to keep myself in this rut, and I'm choosing to stay depressed and stay in this bad cycle of mental health. So I got really into psychology. I wanted to learn about the brain. I wanted to learn why I was feeling the way I was feeling, how trauma works, how I work relating to trauma, how my family affect your psyche growing up, how your friends affect your psyche growing up, how external factors affect it. And there was this book I came across called The Chin Paradox. One of the lads handed it to me. He's like, read that. And honestly, it was actually only, I went for a car review up there the other day, and we were just talking about books, and I was like, I'm 28 now this year. I was like, that book that I read, that was the first book I ever proper read. That book changed my life, because it really taught me how, it was like psychology for dummies, and it taught me about how I think in relation to others, how external factors can influence your thinking, and how to block all that out in time. And chapter by chapter I was learning about like these methods of psychology and learning about myself, and they give you like scenarios like John goes to the shop and this and that happens. Why do you think he reacted this way? And you kind of give you these scenarios. You start thinking about it and you're like,
Yeah.
right, he shouldn't have reacted that way, but he might have reacted that way because this person said this or that person said that. But if basically the consensus of the book is that is the chimp paradox. So you have your human, which is your good angel, your chimp, which is like your bad angel, and your computer, which is just your autopilot in your head. So the human in us is our rational thinker, like don't go out and rob a car. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Don't go
yeah.
out and do drugs. And the bad angel is that one, your primitive instincts to not take, fuck it, just do it. So when you learn to control the good and the bad and in relation to each other, don't get me wrong, sometimes you need that chimp on your shoulder, like for fighting you need that chimp to be like, nah, fuck it, I'm going in, I'm going to smash this cunt, because the chimp is essentially an ego. So when you learn to balance the two off each other and in relation to your life, it kind of gives you that balance. So when I got that balance, then I was like, right, now I feel like and like that, I was working on myself every day. I was speaking positively, like, you are going to get yourself out of this hole. You are a good person. You are like, look how far you've come. You put in all this work, and it's like that. You hear it enough, you start to believe it. So I started to talk to myself positively every day. You can become something of yourself. You can be more than just a shopkeeper in Aldi. At the time I was a manager in Aldi. You can be more than this. You can amount to this, that and the other. You're a good person. You're a great person to your family. You're a great person to your nieces and nephews and all these things. You start to get that confidence in yourself because you start to believe that I am this good person. You say it enough times, you start to believe it.
How long did that take? Because that's not an easy battle.
No, it was a good year and a bit maybe of me working on myself. And like that, it's not every day is sunshine and rainbows. You know what I mean? Some days I have really bad days. You know, like even to this day, some days I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to do anything today. But it's just like you said, persistence. It's just like, nah, fuck it. I'm not listening to myself. I'm getting up and getting after it. And you start to beat that inner bitch in yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The inner bitch always wants to come out and take, like, we're as humans, we want to take the easy way all the time. You know, it's our own comfort, it's our own thing. So when we learn to fight against that and talk against ourselves, you start to grow more, you start to show more character, and you start to grow like more comfortable in yourself. You start to overcome these challenges, and you're like, right, I did that, now I'll try this. Maybe you fail at a few times, then you get it and you go, right, I failed 2 or 3 times, but now I'm after getting this, so now I'll try on another thing. And you can start to climb the ladder of success gradually. Do you know what I mean? Even just internal like success. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, learning how to, like, for me, and I actually started really basic, whereas like I was a little lazy bastard at home. I'd never clean, I'd never do anything. I was like, I'm going to start with the home because I'm there all the time. I'm going to start cleaning the house more. I'm going to start helping around more. And all these little wins, like, I'm going to make me bed today. I'm going to do me washing. I'm going to make the food for the house. I'm going to go out. I'm going to cut the grass in the garden. And all these little daily goals and tasks that you set yourself that are really, like, significant in some people's eyes, can be really insignificant to some other people, but really significant to me, because I was going, I did this. I said I was going to do it, and I did it. So these are all the little small wins that you build on.
They build up to a big win then. If you believe you can cut the grass and you believe you can go on to be a world champion.
And especially if you do a good job where you, like, let's say you're shit at painting.
Yeah.
It's a shit at cutting the grass. If you're washing the dishes, which obviously have bits of food on it, you know, and one day you're like, nah, I'm going to get this right. All these little wins come, and then you start to go, right, now let's look for a bigger challenge. And this one day, like I said, I'm bringing it back now, sorry, but I was sitting in the house drunk one day, and I was like, nah, I'm changing this. I text John Cabinet from SBG. I said, look, John, I'm looking to get back fighting. What's the crack with getting back? Can I join the club? I've fought a lot of the lads who are training there, and a lot of the lads there are my weight. I think it's the best suited fit for me. And he's like, you're more than welcome down any time, Nathan. And I was like, right. Now, it took me a good month and a bit to just get the courage to go, because I was still very, like, into myself. And the first day I joined, everyone was, oh, Nathan, what's the story? Like, you have to join here. I was like, yeah, I'm at to join here. Had a great energy given to me by everyone in the club. Everyone was really welcoming. And then from there, I just changed personally. I won my first fight at 66 with my old coach Barry, and then I took the break. And then when I joined back to SBG, that's when it all started to lay out for me and started to fall into place. I was in a good place mentally. I was surrounded by like-minded people who wanted to be world champions, and like you said earlier on, you are who you surround yourself with. And I was around people who wanted to be world champions, who wanted to be successful fighters, and because I was around them people, they influenced me to be better. And at the time I was working in Aldi as well, so a lot of them lads are training full time, and I was just nipping at their heels. You know what I mean? I was like, if I'm this close now in 6 months' time, where will I be? And I'd slowly start to get better, to get the better of them over time, and I'd be so motivated to get myself, if not on their level, or better. Do you know what I mean? In a certain amount of time. 6 months go by, I'm catching up to them then, and then there was always in the back of my mind, what if I didn't? What if I had the extra session today? Like, what if I left my job and do this? So that was another battle I had then. So I fought. I had 2 fights on the Irish regional scene. Had my first fight with SPG, 9-second knockout, knocked the lad out in 9 seconds out cold. Then my second fight was for a promotion called Clan Wars, and it was for a belt. And at the time, I fought a guy, a Liverpool guy. His name is Shamrock, and it's a funny story. So the guy I was meant to fight. So basically, what happened to me was I fought this first fight, I won. Then they're like, right, we're gonna stick you against this guy, and it was still during COVID, mind you. So I took the week off work to fight this fella, and whatever happened with COVID, whatever the circumstance was, they had to move the date to the next week. And I was like, I can't take another week off work. I'm married to taking a week off work, so had to pull out of the fight. Shem, who I was training with in the meantime, he was training with his SBG, and he has his own story. He was on the run and blah blah blah. And John found out, launched him out of the gym, and in my Muay Thai club, Dublin Combat Academy, where I was training. So one day I see him there, and I was like, oh, like, what the fuck are you doing there? And he told me the story. So we're training with him there, and then the more I was training with him, I was like, oh, he ended up taking the fella. He ended up taking the fight. He replaced me to fight the guy who I was meant to fight. And then I started to think, oh, I think I'm gonna end up having to fight him. So I started to not train in the Muay Thai club as much anymore. And then they offered him to me, and my coach like, look, they have to offering you shame, blah blah. I was like, look, I'm not taking the fight. It's a conflict of interest. I train with him. It's a bit weird. Do you know what I mean? Like, see if they have anyone else. So waited a long while. No, and bear in mind, the fella who he stepped into fight replacing me, he was like, make it for a belt and blah blah blah. So he won the title. He bet your man won the title. And then a month or so goes by, and I'll never forget the day. My coach Dave texted me and was like, Nathan, they really really want you to fight Shem. And I was like, right, just leave it with me, because that day, my dad, I was living with my dad at the time. So during COVID, I kind of went to live with my dad for a bit in his house. And my dad has obviously a problem with drink, and this day he was sitting in the house, and he rings me. He's like, Nathan, I'm in bits here with me stomach and blah blah blah. And it ended up turning out he had acute pancreatitis, which is like basically blood poisoning of the pancreas. So I was like, right. So he texted me saying this, and I was like, I was out with my mate at the time. I was like, ring an ambulance. He's like, all right. So I think he was expecting me to come home and drive him to the hospital. I was like, I'm gonna be at least another 2 hours before I come home. So anyway, get home. He's in there. He's yellow. He's proper yellow. And ambulance comes, brings him off. He had to go into ICU for a few weeks and everything. So he was really really bad. And that day, I'll never forget. Dave sent me the message, and I was like, I got all this had happened in the meantime, and I was like, look, Dave, leave it with me. I'm just going through something here at the minute. And then my dad went into hospital that night, and I was sitting in the house on my own, and I was like, if I don't take this fight, I'm going to be up the walls. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, I'll take the fight to keep my mind off what's going on with my dad. So in the back of my mind, I was like, right, I can sit around, feel sorry for myself and my dad and this and the other, or I can use this as a drive to do it for my dad. To do it for my dad. That's what I was doing it for. And in the meantime, I was saying to myself, why would I not fight Shem? You know what I mean? Like, what stopped me from fighting him? He has what I knew I had to win that title to get onto like a Bellator or to get onto something bigger. He was 6-0 at the time. No one wanted to fight me. He was always putting up videos. No one wants to fight me. Everyone's pulling out and blah blah blah. And then this happened to me, and I was like, fuck it. I was like, I'm gonna fight him. Like, I'm gonna show him I'm not afraid. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like, I'm not gonna dim my light to let his light shine brighter. You know.
Yeah.
So I was like, probably it's gonna shock him that I'm even taking the fight. So I go, yeah, fuck it, I'll take the fight. So I accepted the fight, and end up knocking him out in the first round. And it was after that then the next fight I got was on Bellator. So I got me Bellator shot again in the 3 Arena. Sold fucking 300 tickets. Had me, it was the second fight of the night, and the noise of the place was mental. Had all the fingless heads out causing bother, like. and won a very, very hard-earned fight against a good Welsh lad, Scott.
Did the memories come back from when you lost in the True Arena?
They did, but in a positive way, because I was like, I'm already after being here. I was like, I'm not fucking. I already had I knew what the changing room was like. I knew what the walkout was like. I've seen the crowd already before. I was like, I've been here before, and it's went wrong. I'm gonna make this turn right for me this time, and I was so motivated. End up getting the win. Didn't get the call back from Bellator, which then after the fight, John goes, "Do you want to fight in Malta in July?" And I was like, "Yeah, sound." So ended up fighting in Malta, fought a 8-1 guy, knocked him out in the first round, and before, like the week before the fight, or even like 2 or 3 days before I even flew, John goes to me, "If you win," because at the start of the year, John put in, "If you just want to fight for PFL, put your name down." So I put my name down. John goes to me 2 or 3 days before I was due to fly, "If you beat this guy, you're fighting in PFL in 4 weeks." And I was like, right. So I was like, I'm gonna fucking smash this fella. Do you know what I mean? Went out, knocked him out in the first round. 4 weeks later, I'm fighting in PFL, and went out, fought a guy, Ben Ellis, punched the head off him, ended up taking his back, choking him out, and from there then just everything just went. I got all the recognition I felt I deserved. I was signed to a promotion who loved me. I went for a dinner that night. It was like a winner's dinner. That night I went for a dinner with the PFL staff and some of the winning fighters. I was sitting next to Randy Couture, Kenny Florian, all these, Ray Seffer, who's the president of the organisation. I was sitting with all these having dinner. The CEO to me was like, "Whatever you want to have to eat, you can have to eat, blah, blah, blah. Anything you want to drink, you can have." And I was sitting there, I was talking to Kenny Florian about fighting, trying to get advice off him, talking to Randy Couture and blah, blah, blah. And I'll never forget, I walked in and Kenny, because I was on my own, do you know what I mean? I walked in, I was like, what the fuck, place is packed. And Kenny Florian goes, "There's Nathan Kelly right there." And I was like, what? And because these are people I grew up watching, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Watching all the Ultimate Fighter and watching the UFC. Sat down beside him, and it was just an unforgettable experience for me. And then since then, it's just, my life has just been sweet. I end up, I fought in Florida, then fight after Florida. I fought in Madison Square Garden. I bet a local guy from New York, bet him in Madison Square Garden. Then the end of that year, I headlined the Tree Arena in Dublin for PFL to a sold out crowd. I'll never forget it. I walked out to Crazy World by Aslan, and everyone was just singing their hearts out. It was literally, I got goosebumps walking out, you know what I mean? And I submitted a lad in the first round. It just couldn't have went any better for me, you know what I mean? Then I ended up getting, obviously, I fought on Bellator again, knocked out a guy with a nice elbow, highlight reel elbow. Then I fought on Bellator again in the June. Got a ninja choke in the first round. Then that led me into having a fight in Dubai against a Dagestani guy that I ended up eventually losing. And they told me then, leading on that fight week, "Oh, you're going to fight in the PFL World Tournament in April." So I was like, oh, well, like, alright. I didn't even know I was going to be in it. So they told me I was going to be in it on the week of my fight, which was like, oh, what the fuck, my head's going 100% miles an hour. I ended up losing the fight to the Dagestani, and I was like, fuck it, I'm back up again in 9 weeks. This is how fast the sport moves. So I went on then to fight in the PFL World Tournament. Another loss, unfortunately. I fought a very good South Korean guy, Tae-Kyung Kim. I felt like I just couldn't get going that night. I always use the analogy of like a footballer. A footballer has a bad game, he gets taken off. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? In MMA, you have a bad night, you're getting fucking punched around or submitted or whatever, or knocked out. So it's one extreme to the other, but everyone has a bad night, and everyone we've talked about this, like, some nights you are up for it, some nights you're not up for it, some nights you have a great warm-up, some nights you don't. Yeah. Sometimes them things happen and it's very natural. So I came out from that fight, obviously I was heartbroken, I was fucking cried my eyes out after losing, because I thought that you win the tournament, you win a 500 grand and you become the belt, you win the title, do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I lost in the first round, I was devastated, and it was this whole thing. I was like, right, I'm not going to let this loss define me. I'm after losing 2 in the bounce. I lost my first 2 fights and I went on an 11 fight win streak. Now I'm after losing this one. Watch what I can do now, you know what I mean? So now I have this upcoming fight, and which is great, because I didn't know I was going to I thought they were just going to put me on the shelf, because I lost 2 fights this year. I thought they might, because I'm only contracted to have 2 fights a year, and everything after that is a bonus. So John was pushing hard for me to get on and have another fight, and I got a fight announced. So I was delighted. Now I'm back in training for this one. Do you know what I mean? So it's keeping me, like I said to you earlier on before we started, my weight is on point. I've trained so hard. I have such a clean slate. And even my missus was saying to me, she was like, how you've carried yourself after losing these losses is a true, like,
True champion.
Yeah, that came through like experience.
100%.
Like, dealing with your losses and like listening to people that you grew up idolizing, like showed you that like it is part of the game, like losses.
100%. Like, and not even in the sport, losing in life, being in ruts in personal life, like looking at your family life, it doesn't go well. You face all these setbacks, and I just like, this is just another setback for me. Do you know, like this is just this is
can't get any lower than what you were, like.
Yeah, and like I was in such a low place before with mental health. I was like, I can never be in that state again, because I'm in control of me daily habits. I've good people around me. I have a really, really great girlfriend who I love very much, and she's great for me, and she keeps me kind of level. So when I lost, I was like, and like I said to Zeron, that 0 record now is few and far between. It's very, very hard to keep an undefeated record. If you look at any of the elite pros in the UFC, a lot of them have losses. Do you know what I mean? That's the top level of the sport. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and I just made this connection that I was like, I'm gonna lose some fights, but I'm also gonna win a lot of fights.
That's where you're gonna get better and learn from them, I think.
100%.
If you're always winning, you won't know how to deal with a loss, and then like that's the make or breaker then, isn't it, of a fighter? Like
100%, and becomes, not that I should say you get comfortable with losing, but you understand how to deal with your emotions when you lose. And you can go back to the drawing board. Like I lost my last fight, literally got back to the hotel, me and my coach in the room. I was like, right, go on, tell me what I could have improved this camp. Do you know what I mean? He's like, we won't talk about it tonight. I was like, no, we haven't had a drink or anything, we're still fresh off the loss. What do you think I could have improved? And we went through a few things, and I was like, right, now I'm glad you've told me that now, because now that you've told me that, I realised that what I was doing probably wasn't the best thing for me to do during the camp. And I'll just give you an example. So and it's actually funny because I actually had a fractured foot going into that fight, which I didn't get checked until I went to Dubai to see me missus. And I got it checked by the physio, and she was like, yeah, signs that looked like it was fractured, because in one of me first ever simulation spar for that fight, I kicked through a kick, and I kicked my training partner straight in the knee, and I was like, oh, I was trying to dance it off and blah blah blah. The round one ended, and my foot, I mean, pins and needles throbbing, and I was like, I got to my coach there, I was like, Dave, this isn't right, like this isn't right at all. And he's like, do you want to stop it? I was like, yeah, like I am in serious pain here. Anyway, the tough pain threshold is quite good, so I couldn't run for the whole camp. I was in bits of my foot, couldn't throw any kicks. Every time I spar, I had to wear a wrestling boot just to keep it extra protected. So I'd have a wrestling boot on and a shin pad over the wrestling boot as well for that extra protection. So how my training got affected, which then led to what my coach told me, was that I used to spar on a Tuesday and a Thursday, which meant that I'd have more than likely a night before a spar, I wouldn't train, because I want to have good energy for the spar, because it's a fight simulation and you want to have everything you have going into it. So I train like once on a Monday, then I train on a Tuesday, I have a fight simulation. Based off how sore my foot was, I probably wouldn't train again that night. Wednesday, because Wednesday is kickboxing sparring, so because Wednesday I sparred on Tuesday and I knew I was going to spar on Thursday, I wouldn't spar on the Wednesday, then I'd spar on Thursday, and then I couldn't grapple at all because my foot was so sore. I couldn't even like bend down to put my foot on the mat, or if I put like the flat of my foot on the mat, the pain I was in. So I was literally just getting through the training camp whatever way I could. And he was like, look, now bear in mind I didn't know all this damage that was done to my foot till way after the fight. But during the camp, I was just trying to get myself through it. And in doing that, I was missing all my skill sessions. So every morning we train, like positional training, certain positions, and you're like going over certain routines that may happen in the fight. And I just wasn't drilling them. So I think I just lacked that on the night then when it came to it. I didn't have that instinctive approach that I could just do it without thinking. I was thinking a lot during the fight as opposed to just fighting naturally and not being in a subconscious mode, you know. So all well and good, hindsight's a great thing. I looked at that, so like I said, I became comfortable with understanding losing. I addressed everything that I've done wrong in the last camp, and now in this camp we've made them fixes, and now like I said, I'm like what I should be on fight week now, essentially. So I'm so far ahead of schedule. My nutrition has been on point. My nutritionist actually upped my calories. this week because like you're 6 weeks ahead of schedule. Like so now I can eat more. I'm in great shape. I'm in great headspace. I carry myself so well after the loss because I was like, I know I'm still an animal. I just had 2 bad nights at the office, and even the fight that I lost to the Dagestani guy, I did really well up until I lost. Do you know what I mean? I split him with an elbow, big gash from there to there. I nearly finished him. Do you know what I mean? I just made a few tactical errors on the night. What actually led to me losing was that he got me in that Dagestani handcuff and he pulled it behind me back, and my whole arm went numb. This is at the end of the 4th round. My whole arm, whatever way he pinched me nerve, my whole arm went numb, my right arm, and then into the second round I was like, fuck, and I was a little bit shook from it, and then I just became a shell of myself in the second round, and I threw a lazy jab and he shot in straight away because obviously he was still hurt, and he took me down and just controlled me. He was just tapping away with strikes, and like, you didn't hurt me. The reference was like, you need to move, and I was like, alright, so I went to move and he just caught me in a rear naked choke. But like I said, it's you're looking at pros, and like I looked at that loss and I was like, right, yeah, I lost, but what good did I do? Do you know what I mean? So this is when your mindset starts changing. If you only look at the negatives, you'll just focus on the negatives. So every time I fight, I try to analyse it from the perspective of, I'll take 3 positives and maybe 1 or 2 negatives.
Keep that balance.
Yeah, I'll keep that balance. So I'll look at my negatives and I go, right, I can work on that. And then I'll look at my positives and go, right, I did this really well, so I know this works. So then I'll do that again in the future, you know. Same against my last fight. I looked at some of the pros and cons. It's like, right, I did really well at defending me chokes and blah blah blah. How I ended up getting finished was someone, he split my eye with a backhand, and the blood was pissing into my eyes. I could barely see, and the sweat was the blood was actually helping me defend the chokes. But then at one point it went against me, and he just slipped it in underneath, and he got the choke on. So I was like, right, I did really well up until some certain points in that fight, and then I did some other things that I need to fix as well. So like you said, it's having that balance of like not letting one outweigh the other, do you know?
Yeah.
What do you think a fighter's mindset, or obviously your mindset? What type of confidence and self-belief do you think you have to have?
A delusional one. I think, you know, I think in this game, if you don't have like, and I think that's why I got into it, because I was like, I'm going to be a world champion. You need to almost have this delusional self-belief, because everyone has it, you know, and if you don't have it, you're just going to be that step behind everyone else, because me just having that extra bit of delusion and self-belief might be the difference of a night against a guy who's kind of doubting himself. So if I have that extra bit of like, nah, I'm going to fucking go through this, blah, 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 and that guy is like, oh, I don't know, I'm obviously going to get the upper hand in that night. So it goes being delusional and almost being, I don't like saying having an ego, but you kind of do have to have an ego.
But I have the ego going with you more than going against you, sort of thing.
It's a positive ego, I'd say. So it's like a productive ego as opposed to a destructive ego.
Yeah.
If you have a destructive ego, for example, I'll just give you as a quick example. Like, you get a good paycheck and you're like, I'm buying a BMW, or I'm buying a Rollie, or I'm buying this, or I'm buying that. That's a destructive ego, because you're getting fixated on superficial things, when what really matters is what car you drive doesn't affect how you train in a cage. What clothes you wear doesn't affect how you train or fight in a cage. Do you know what I mean? Well, all that matters really is the compound interest of you rocking to training every single day
and improving.
100%. All the things in between mean nothing. All that matters is you're rocking in. So your ego can either go against you or go with you, and it's about how you control that. So like, my whole mantra is like, I don't care if I'm wearing fucking designer clothes. If I'm like, I have a Toyota Corolla that I drive. The thing is a fucking battleship of a thing. The scratches on it.
Yeah.
It's like it's me trusty stage. Do you know what I mean? And I'll drive that until it breaks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care about having a flashy car. I don't get me wrong, I like me fashion, like I like wearing nice clothes and stuff. I think every young fella just likes to have like a nice tracksuit or whatever. That's just
looking well is a good thing as well, because you're giving off a good impression to people.
Yeah, it's a certain way you hold yourself, do you know? Like don't get me wrong, some days like all I do is wear gym gear. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm always wearing my PFL gear, my PFL trackies, you know, shorts, a jumper. Like all I wear is kind of like gym gear anyway. So I don't really look like too flashy regardless, but I try to, even if I am dressed in a gym gear, just to have a certain kind of like, once I look a little bit sharp, I'll be happy, do you know what I mean? But to be like the most beautiful, gorgeous, like designer gear.
yeah.
I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. All of that means nothing to me.
Just
I
be
have
yourself.
Yeah, be yourself. Like, I don't give, like, my mates are still gonna love me for me, no matter what clothes I wear.
Yeah.
My family's gonna love me for me, no matter what clothes I wear or what car. My girlfriend met me when I had nothing, just so, like, she didn't give a shit about any of that stuff. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And she's not like that as a person anyway. She's from Cavan. She's a country woman, real typical country.
Yeah.
Doesn't give a rat's, just bog standard, you know. And that's someone who I need in my life to keep me grounded. So I know that me going through all these things that I might have in my head are just bogus regardless. So having that ego as a fighter and having that work with you is very, very positive. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you need to have that bad ego just to be like, oh, I'm fucking, like, I have a bit of that bad ego. Like, I feel like I have a chip on my shoulder now after losing my last 2 fights, to the point where it's like, no, I'm gonna smash up this fella. This fella is getting it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I know like I said to you, I know I'm an animal. So it's just me bringing that animal out of me in the night. Sometimes when you lose a few fights, it can go away, and you can kind of lose track of yourself, and you start to have these doubts. But I'm at the top of the level of the sport. Like, I'm fighting in the world tournaments. It's the elite of the elite fighters. Do you know what I mean? And I'm at that level. I just need to still believe, regardless of my losses, that I'm at that level. If you look at the tournament, like, you have world champions who've won the belt and they're going out and losing. It just that's how
just
quick.
letting that win sometimes get to the head.
Yeah, so like it's just about how you carry yourself and how you bounce back. Like I said, the sport is so fast moving. You'll lose this fight and then you'll win 3, and then you might lose again,
it's
and
just
then
like fail forward, isn't it?
yeah. And if I bring it back to football, because everyone knows football, like Liverpool, they won the league there last year on a so many win streak. They play against Brighton and they lose. Like, but you think that's going to stop Liverpool from going, nah, the end goal is to win the title?
Yeah.
It's not. You just had a bad day that night, do you know what I mean? And it's the same. I can lose a fight and go, oh fuck, I just had a bad night that night, but I'm going to get back into my next fight. I'm going to make sure I right the wrongs and make sure I get the win the next time. And then you just keep building, you know?
Yeah.
What's your driver? What gets you out of bed? What keeps you pushing forward?
What's your why, sort of thing?
I think me why always as a kid was that I wanted to create a life for myself. Well, one that and I constantly remind myself of this, and I think you should do this as well, based off what you do with the podcast, is like this is a passion of mine. Like, I've wanted to do this since I was a kid. Like, my whole dream was to be a professional MMA fighter and not have to work, do this as a job. So every morning when I'm getting out of bed, I'm like, I get to be an MMA fighter. Like, most people would give their left ball to do something that they always dreamed of doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want to work that dead end job, or not that people have dead end jobs, but they don't.
It's
They want
just
to
not for certain
Like,
people.
live in the moment.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
like-
saying?
like-
be proud of the moment, sort of thing.
Exactly, and I think that's my driving factor. Obviously, then let's be real. Like, you want to make money. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to create like a legacy for myself, and in creating that legacy for myself, people always say, do you want to have legacy or do you want to have money? This is prize fighting. I want to fucking make money.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this to get paid scrubs and to get paid nothing. I wanna make money for myself, this, so that maybe I can set up a business outside of fighting, or maybe I can invest in a mortgage. And the thing, sometimes the delusion comes is that since Conor came around and he made all these millions, people think that, oh, I'm gonna be able to make them millions. But in reality, see, fighting, it's a fucking dead end kind of, like, fighting is almost dead end. Because you can get into fighting thinking you're going to make this, that and the other. You rock up the fight and you're getting paid 500 quid, like. Do you know what I mean? You're putting your health on the line for 500 quid, like. Do you know? So, like, the most people don't make good money from MMA. Do you know, realistically, you have all these trainers put in all this work, and like that, one loss might change one promoter's perspective of you, and they don't give you another shot. And then you're working harder again to try chase something back and blah, blah, blah. So, fighting can go against you more than it can go with you, and it's, at the end of the day, we're getting punched in the head for a living. You're taking the years off your life doing this,
You
so
want to make the most of it.
you want to try and make as much money as you can in the space that time that you have. But like I said,
Get rich, get out.
get rich, get in, get rich, get out of there as quick as you can. That's my goal anyway. I don't want to be drooling and fucking lifting me kids out of the cotton. They should be drooling on me, but I'm drooling all over them. Do you know what I mean? Like, or else they're like, "What's 1, 2, 3?" And I'm like, "Oh, I don't fucking know." Do you know what I mean? Like, you tell me. Do you know what I mean? So my goal is to make as much money as I can. And John always says it to us now. He's like, "Look, we're in a different era now. Do you know, like, Conor changed the game for us. He set the platform up, but the reality is the money isn't that good. So if you can at least get a house out of this for yourself, if you can go through your career and at least get up enough for a mortgage on a house, that's a win. That's a big win.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you and because everything else then is a bonus. So my goal now is to make myself enough money that I can invest in a house for me and my missus. Once I get the house, then that's everything else that comes after that is a blessing and a bonus because I don't want anything else more. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe then I'll upgrade to a better Toyota Corolla. Do you know what I mean? I'll get a year 2020 Toyota Corolla. Do you know what I mean? But regardless of that, everything else is a bonus after that. So initially, it was to me main drive was to be doing something I always wanted to do. Then it was right, build the future for my family, and then now in the midst of me trying to build a future for my family, it's hopefully then maybe get into business then after fighting, because like we said, you want to get in and get out, and if you can have an out plan, I'm trying to learn about things in and out of, like, I was on a barbering course. I've went into learning about investing in property and investing in stocks and all this type of stuff, so that when the time comes and I have enough money there, if I can invest it in something that is ticking on the side while I'm still fighting, that when the time comes for me to draw back from fighting and leave, that I'll have 2 or 3 business ventures that I can delve into.
You'll know you're happy to make the move, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm on it on my terms.
Yeah.
There's one, and this the whole thing is like you don't want to be chasing something with fighting when it's not giving anything back to you. So if you can go about on your own terms and fighting, then you're going out hopefully healthy with a few quid in your pocket and with a really nice career behind you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
stories to tell in the bar.
Stories to, and like that. Yeah, I have so many good stories to tell. I can't even tell them all on the camera because it's just I have so many cool stories. But you know, when I'm done fighting, I'm 28 this year. I'm hoping now I'll fight for at least another 5-6 years. You know what I mean? God forbid, touch wood, no injuries happen to me. Do you know what I mean? Something could happen to me tomorrow and I could have to retire. So you have to take every day as it comes. But I'm hoping now for the next 5 years, I'll just continue, like you said, just be persistent, keep grinding, win, lose, draw. You're just keeping that and keeping the mindset in the right place. And, you know, hopefully it'll all work out. And this is another thing that's funny is, like, you know, the older you get, like the closer to the end of your career you get is normally when you're making the best money. So if you look at any like mid-30s to late 40s UFC fighters and stuff like that, they're probably making their best money then. So the decision to retire is probably harder for them because they're like, I've grinded all these 20 plus years, now I'm making good money, so why would I retire? Do you know? So it's trying to find that right time and to retire. Do you know?
It's when you take that victory lap, that's when you get caught, though,
it's
isn't
more
it?
just everybody's personal opinion, isn't it, when they want to retire, like go out on their own terms, as you said.
Yeah, because like one thing you'll well, obviously you're something on my so you don't feel it, but when you feel like you're starting to slow down, do you know, when you're not recovering as quick, when the young guys are just, all the young guys come now are training since they're 4, you know, and they're just animals, and them guys start to take the lead and you're struggling to keep up with them, and you know you have to be really mindful of all that. And you know, I have a bit of a shoulder injury since the World Championships in 2016. It's only 9 years ago, and I still deal with this shoulder injury. So you have all these things that are like, right, when will the time come that one might stop me, or when will the time come where I just go, my body has had enough and I need to just draw back and maybe give me attention to my family or something else outside of the sport. But there's all these variables that are involved in it that make you wonder, but then there's also a lot of positive variables that are like, nah, I can go again, another one, I can go again. But like you said, it's going out on your own terms, how you feel. If you feel like the sport isn't because MMA doesn't love you, you love MMA. The MMA is a brutal sport, like boxing as well. You know, you can work so hard for years and then nothing will ever come of it, you know. So it's just knowing that the sport's never going to love you as much as you love the sport, and your time might come quicker than others or than you think. But as long as you feel in yourself that you're not getting back out what you're putting in, or that what you're putting in is putting too much stress in the body or the mind, or you know, your personal life or your family life, whatever it may be, then it might be the right time to stop. But it's really hard to know when that is. Only the individual will know.
It's hard to make that decision because you're given so much of your life and then you're just saying, right, this is the end, sort of thing. And
people go into a denial about it because they're like, no, I'm still still training, I still feel good in the gym and blah blah, but they've lost 4 fights in a row because that next lad just has that bit more juice to give.
Yeah.
So that's when you face them demons, and then I think that's when your people around you in your circle should be like, or your coaches or your family should go, look, I don't know if this is, I think you're past it now. Do you know what I mean? So if for me, for example, if I'm a bit deluded and I can chase back the wins and blah blah blah, but my family and my coaches are worried because they know me, they know you better than anyone, and if they're saying we don't think it's the right idea, sometimes you have to just listen to them external sources and take their advice, because they cared about you more sometimes than you cared about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's having the trust in those who trust you and trust in you and believe in you to go, no, Nate, this isn't for you anymore, you know. But like I said, it's very hard to make them decisions. It's your whole life's work up in smoke then, so it's very, very hard to know. Like,
what's the vision with the podcast then? How can you set up the podcast?
to be honest, I just set up the podcast because, like, I don't know, I just love talking to people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just love, like, one of the lads we were talking about it before, it's like, there's so many cool stories that one of my mates in Dubai, John, we always say, now after a jiu-jitsu session or an MMA session, we sit around and we talk about the past or, like, things that are going on, some cool stories, and just me being on podcasts and talking and how much I've learned from listening to podcasts. Like, I'm mad into podcasts, so I listen to, as much as I love me music, like, most of the day I'm listening to podcasts, whether it be educational podcasts, comedy podcasts, like what you are doing, people telling stories, whether it's whatever it is. Like, I just love listening to people and hearing stories and hearing experiences, and I think podcasts really do give a good opportunity for people, like for example, you are from Ballymun, yeah, and you might get guests on, even like me, that no one has ever heard of, and I might say something on this podcast that maybe a lad from around the area can relate to, like, oh, my man and dad broke up and blah blah blah, or my dad had a drinking problem,
Yes.
and they can go, oh, I'm not the only person going through this, and look what he did, and he was in the same position as me.
Showing people that, like, you can relate to people and that they're normal too, sort of thing.
Exactly, and just for example, people who don't know me, all you see online is what you see online, and people might not actually know me for who I am as a person. So, like, for example, you know, when you're a kid, like, you see someone online and he's acting the washer online, and you're like, I don't like that cunt, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when you actually talk to him in person, you're like, actually, he's sound, but the image he portrays online just comes across like an arsehole. But when you actually talk to them one-to-one in person, you go, alright, actually, maybe I was quick to jump the gun and I assumed something of him, do you know what I mean? So when you get someone on who maybe doesn't know who that person is, or they have a fixed imagination of what that person is as a person, then you hear them speaking and they're really nice and they're saying nice things and they might motivate people, or they say something that someone is like can really relate to and connect to. Now they're going, oh, my whole opinion changed. So I think what you are doing is the best example of that. You're giving people, like even me, like to your followers, a chance to share my story and show people like where, like, because Ballymun and Finglas are essentially neighbours, so like technically where we're from, we're not meant to make it, do you know what I mean? We're kind of doomed people by society. The government holds us as like lower class citizens, working class people. We're more likely not meant to go to college. We're like assumed that we're gonna be working or doing drugs or whatever it is. It's that whole narrative is just fixated on us as people. So it's you's giving lads now an incentive to hear positive stories, and they listen, like we said earlier on, they listen back to all these episodes and have people on who are from the same areas, from the same suburbs, changing their life for the better, and just hopefully inspiring other people to maybe just join a gym or join a football club or get out running or chase their dream job, whether join the army, being a chef, being whatever it is. Just hearing a story that you can relate to and go, oh, maybe I'll just take the chance. So that's why I set up the podcast, and more importantly, it's a great avenue just to promote yourself as well. Do you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong, if you can use have you as our sponsors on board, that's a nice way for you to meet and connect with people and contact with people and network and stuff like that. So yous are kind of in the middle of setting up your own little business outside of your personal life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a little business for you. You're meeting all these people, you're connecting with people, you're networking, and that'll just open doors and different avenues. And even if it's like something, here, look, I can get you in, talk to this fella, and he's an accountant, and he might be able to help you with your finances and this, that, and the other. All these little doors open. So that's another way for you to, like, even hopefully, if he's gonna take me advice in this, everyone who you get in, ask them, oh, like, if we can ever need anything from you, like, would you be able to help us out? Because I'm sure they would. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the same as me. If I ever have a guest on who I'm gonna make up something, like, let's just say I have an actor on, right? And I just go, look, if I ever want to get into acting, can you lead me down the right road? And he'd say, yeah. And that's just a door that opens from that. Do you know? So that's just one concept or idea that I have, like, that could be, like, beneficial in that sense. But the podcasting thing is just a passion project, really. You know, it's something that I like doing. I like chatting to people. I love chatting to you lads here and just getting out, like, stories and just bouncing back off what you want to hear from me.
As you were saying, that people learn off each other. I think, like, people can't help each other. Like, see, even like you mentioned in that book, like, changing your life. Somebody might listen to this in the same situation.
I'm gonna go home and read that book now.
And they're gonna
best book I'll ever read.
They're gonna buy that book and they're gonna be like, right, Nathan said read that, listen to this, and it could change their life.
100. I think it will. If you want to learn the basics of psychology, the Chin Paradox, honestly, you might have to read a few. It's really broken down really well, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not the best at paying attention. I'm a bit, like, fidgety, and I find it hard to pay attention. But if you just put the time into reading it, like, since then I've read, like, I'm saying millions, I'm probably over exaggerating, but I've read loads of books since then.
Yeah.
I've read biographies, I've read self-help books, I've read, like, fictional books and stuff like that. So it kind of just leads you into, alright, I can't. Yeah, because I was like, because I never thought I could never read a book. I don't have the time or the patience. Then you read a book and you're like, alright, I'm not reading the 300-page book. I can't read a book. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can put the time into it. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm like, right, I'm gonna read a book today, and I'll read it. I'll read one page and go, not feeling it today. And then I'll come back to it then when I'm in the humour to read it. But the whole point is that, like, if you do put the time into it and just give it a chance, you never know what it could actually do for yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's one book I would recommend to you lads if you just want to learn a little bit about yourselves, others, and it's such a nice book to read. Like, it's, like I said, it's very broken down and simple. But read books are tools.
Yeah.
Books are literally tools, you know what I mean? And people don't realise that, like, for hundreds and thousands of years, all, like, back in the olden days, like the early fairy wizards and priests and all this, all people did was read books. And why? Because they wanted to educate themselves.
Yeah.
So that's where everyone learned from the past, is from books. And people don't realise, like, now a lot of the books are just kind of, you can have, like, Atomic Habits and the Habit Loop, and there's the same book but with just different wording. So, like, I can read two of them books, they might be very similar in what they're saying, but one person might say it in a way that I can understand more, or they might word it in a way that I can relate to more. Do you know what I mean? So it's just testing the waters, trying different books is really good, like, a way to educate ourselves. And I think people out there, young lads, don't knock books. You're not nerd if you're reading books. Do you know what I mean?
I'm trying to get into the books now, and I started with The Secret, and now I'm reading Shoe Dog, Phil Knight's autobiography.
Never. What's that about?
It's about how he started Nike and how he grew Nike, and it's an amazing book. I'd
What's
really
it called?
recommend.
Shoe Dog.
Yeah.
Must give that a read
Warren
myself.
Buffett and all read it, and Warren Buffett gave, like, a statement on it saying just whatever it was, and it's on the front page, loads of different people, and just the knowledge that you gain off that, not even if you want to start a clothing brand, but just believing in yourself, taking a risk, going out on a chance, everybody telling you you're crazy. He's still done it. Like, nobody believed in him. The amount of times he was losing money, he didn't have any money, he had kids at home, he had a wife at home, and he couldn't bring any money home. And now look where Nike is, you know what I mean? It's just
mental.
And he's still alive. Like, this is
It's
less than
mental.
100 years old, and he's talking about, he thought Adidas was this far gone thing into the future, forget about it, I just want to build my own thing. And now Nike is worth more than Adidas in less time. Like, and but what I was saying there is, reading, I absolutely love it. It gets me motivated. It teaches me a lot, and honestly, knowledge is power nowadays as well. But the only thing is, I pick it up and I'd read, if I pick it up, I'd read 2 chapters, but then if I put it down, it's down for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I'm a bit like
I'm
that
real,
as well.
yeah, it's real. Like, I'll pick it up, I'll be like, yeah, get better into this now. Like, say if I'm on a plane, I'd read it for the whole plane duration, then when I get get wherever I'm going, I put the book down, I'll read that tonight.
I'm
No,
the
I
same.
won't, you know.
I'm actually reading a book now. It's about a boxer. This guy's sorry how bad my memory is. Eamon McGee is his name. He's a Northern Irish boxer, and it's just his story about growing up in the troubles and boxing. He has drinking and drug problems and blah blah blah. But like the chapters are like one chapter's like 60 pages long.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, right, I'll read a chapter and then I'm an hour and a bit in. I'm like, right, thank God that's over. I'll read that now when I have the head for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I'm only like 6 chapters in of like 9 or 10 chapters, and I like that. I'm like, right, maybe I'll read that tomorrow. That's the book. I went to Costa the other day, had a coffee. I was like, right, I'll read the book, and I read 2 pages. And I was like, nah, I can't do this today. You need to just be in the headspace for it. But
do.
when you actually do get into reading like stories, like one of the best books I ever read. One book that I genuinely didn't want to put down was I read Mike Tyson's book. But you know what he's like, boy, he's a mad fucker. You know what I mean? He's mad stories. So that was one that I was bet into. I didn't want to put down. But like some of them are few and far between. It's very hard for sometimes a book that just grips you, that you have to you want to read it.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is just that regardless of how much you want to read it, or if you have the consistency to read it, it's just that you get it done eventually, rather than just letting it collect dust on the shelves, you know.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an educational book or a self-help book, you sort of have to have a bit of a discipline to read it.
Yeah.
It's not amazing, it's not catching my attention, like it's not as easy as scrolling on TikTok, but it's way more beneficial, so I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean?
TikTok is a nuisance, isn't it? Sometimes.
It's a rabbit hole. Once you just scroll on it.
I'm the worst culprit for TikTok. Like honestly,
Yeah.
like I'll scroll on TikTok for hours. You know what I mean? As much as I hate to say it, I just feel ashamed of myself. All me 2 hours of the day gone just scrolling on TikTok, but it just grabs you. It just gets you.
Yeah.
Them quick videos. You're just like,
Yeah.
I'll just watch another one.
And then you don't even have the, what's the word? Don't have the attention span
Yeah.
for the 3-second video.
Yeah, you're just
That's
like,
how bad it's
yeah,
getting. You
like,
don't
and-
even have the attention span for it.
And this is what's tricky as well nowadays, because like as they're saying with the videos online, it's like you might have a really good guest on, you post a video, but jeez, if it's not 20 seconds anymore, no
Yeah.
one wants to fucking watch it.
And 20 seconds is too long.
Yeah, and like 20 seconds, like you could do a bleeding, whatever, you could do loads in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, even for me, recording me content to like post training clips or post this, that, and the other, I try to record as much as I can. Then I feel like I end up recording too much, and then I'm like, no one wants to watch a minute and 20 video. Like, so you're trying to bring it down under a minute so the algorithm picks it up and people might tune in. Then you look at the statistics of it and you're like, people knocked it off after 30 seconds, and you're like, fuck it, I got the view anyway. I don't really care. But maybe the best part of the technique was at the end of it, and they're missing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do always see that. Like some of our clips, the best part of it's at the end of it, and I'm like, people aren't gonna stay till the end of that to watch that. So you have to try and get something to catch them at the start.
Yeah.
Something I find helps is when I'm posting a clip, I'd make sure there's captions on it, and on the captions I'd put like a red highlight on the word,
So it grips them.
so it grips them. So the red highlight's moving. I'd put a song in the background so they can just hear the little song in the
Yeah.
background as they're talking. Like I
keeps
done
them-
it for the Owen Roddy one, and he was talking,
That was a
and I
great
put
podcast, by the way.
thanks, yeah.
Yeah.
And I put a Pharrell Williams song in the back, and it's sort of like a building up song, and what he's talking about is building up. The captions are going, and you just put like the highlights in it, and you, for them captions as well, I used emojis in each sentence. I was using like space rocket emojis, and that got way better views.
Another good thing I've seen, or this is just me observing what people are doing, is like, John, like you said there about like the best bit might be at the end of the video. That if you clip that best bit, put it at the start, let them say that bit, but then bring it back to the start so that they're waiting for that bit to come.
Like
So
a hook.
I end up, I need to start doing that myself, because I've seen a few videos where like people are talking and the intro to the video is the golden nugget, you know, and then they'll talk about it and then I'll bring it back to the start of the conversation. Even if it's a 30-second long video, it might be 10 seconds of the end at the start,
Yeah.
and then for the next 20 seconds it leads back into the end part. So the end bit is going to grip them at the start, so they're like, oh, he's talking about this, and then your 10 or 20 seconds in between leads up to that last 10 seconds, which is the 10 seconds you use at the start. So could be another one you might try out. I've just seen a lot of videos do that, and it actually pays. Once I hear them talking about, let's say someone, let's say it's a video, just I'm going to make up a mad scenario, like a police officer in America, yeah, we shot the guy 9 times and blah blah blah. So that's the start of the video, and then it goes back to the start of the video, what leads up to that, and then you're like, I want to see what happens now. Do you know what I mean? Why did he get shot 9 times? Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's like the Reddit stories. You ever see them Reddit stories? It's like, they'll just make something up here. This is how I robbed the bank at 10 million euros, and then it goes back to start. She's talking about like the build up to robbing the bank and all. But if she just started that video on the build up to robbing the bank,
no one's
gonna
watch it. Scroll. Yeah, I find like there's so many tactics with social media these days.
Yeah.
It's brain numbing sometimes. You know what I mean?
The only thing with it is, I heard actually, I think it was Stephen Bartlett or like Mr. Beast, and they're both like, that's what they do. Like,
yeah, but Mr. Beast is the fucking best in the world, isn't he? Like, really, like.
But even he was saying that like listening to the best in the world, saying like he can't even keep up with it. He said because it's always changing, and Instagram do that for a reason, so there's not always people copping onto it. So everyone,
you always have to switch up your game.
Yeah.
Another one Mr. Beast said was that he pays like some guy, whoever does the social media, like fucking 10 grand a month or whatever, and he comes up with the thumbnails for the videos. So like Mr. Beast stand there like that with big writer giving away 100 million. Like he gets paid mad money just to come up with all these cool thumbnails for videos. I was like, fucking hell, like you're making 10 grand a month for some fella to do that, you're doing well, aren't you? Like
it's a great investment, I think, like for Mr. Beast, because that's what gets people on the videos. Say he's getting paid 10 times that for the videos. One more question for the audio listeners. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Where do I see myself in 5 years' time? To be honest, I don't really know, boys, because I try not to think that far ahead. One thing John told me, my coach, is set 24-hour goals. If you start to think really, really far ahead, you can kind of get too far ahead and forget about the present. So I kind of just set 24-hour goals for myself. Like today I'm going to do this with my training session, and then I'll write me goals. I have a whiteboard in the gaff, and I'll write whatever I want for the next day. If I achieve them, good, I achieved that. Now I'm on to the next day. In 5 years' time, if I was to sit down and think of it, where would I like to see myself? I'd like to see myself owning a house, hopefully having a family by then. I'd like to have kids in the next 5 years. Hopefully be a world champion by then, or if not, made a lot of good money to invest in a business or something like that outside of the sport. And more importantly, I just pray for good health and to be somewhat content with where I am in life, you know. That's all I can ask for. If I'm happy with how far I've come and where I am, and I'm not drooling all over me kids, like I said, then that's been a successful ride for me, you know.
Deadly.
It's amazing, eh?
Right.
Thanks very much for having me, boys.
What's the name of your podcast?
My podcast is The Gift of the Jab.
Deadly. Give it a listen.
Nice one, boys. Appreciate that, and thanks for having me.
Now, what a episode 43 Back of the Class podcast wrapped up.